I would like you to introduce a new concept that BEBA is doing. We're encouraging young leaders to attend our event, for them to know what's going on, and for them to give them the opportunity to ask questions and to mingle with the business community. I want you to give a round of applause to the students of Oasis who are here, and I have given them an... They are the leaders of tomorrow, and they're going to ask questions today. And I have given them an assignment to write a concept paper on real estate and how to find dollars to export real estate. And I told them that I'm going to grade them, and they're very happy with the challenge. So, and they would like to make it with you because they're looking to go to have summer interns. So perhaps you can help them in doing so. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Karim Helal, who is going to give the welcoming remarks, and he's going to moderate the session. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed breakfast. Oh, morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's always a great pleasure to be here in BEBA events, and more so to have such a group of wonderful people to support us. I was given some text to read by Nadia, so I'm going to do that. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the board to welcome you to this special event. And our objective is to empower organizations to address the challenges posed by the current economic, geopolitical challenges that we have. Today's session is titled, in short, In Search of Dollars, which is, I think, is a very apt title for what's going on in the country right now. And the idea really is to explore some unconventional approaches to generate the much needed dollars, which that will be the main topic of our session. In the meantime, I would like to welcome our guests, His Excellency Ambassador Goh, Singapore Embassy. Thank you for always attending our events. I would also like to welcome Ambassador Sun, Republic of Korea. Thank you for coming. And I would like to thank silver sponsor, Emirates NBD, who will also participate on the panel. And then our continued ongoing sponsors, Bongji CIB, GlaxoSmithKline, Innovo, New Era Education, Suez Canal Bank, Tatweer Misr, and Vodafone. And our special thanks to our strategic media partner, Excellence. I would like now to start by calling our distinguished panelists to the floor. Mohamed Kaoud, Associate Director, Hospitality, Colliers. Ibrahim Missiri, CEO, Somabay. Tamer Ragheb, Head of Corporate, Emirates NBD. Zeinab Adel, Partner and Country Head, Knight Frank. Last but not least, of course, Engineer Hesham Shoukri, Founder of Rooya and Chairman of the Real Estate Export Council. Welcome, everybody. obviously, as we said earlier, the soup of the day and every day is dollars. We're looking for dollars by whichever means, and we have been resorting to conventional, non-conventional, all kinds of ways and methods to generate much needed dollars. Now, one of the topics that has actually been mentioned long time ago, and actually Engineer Hesham was the first, I remember, more than 10 years ago, he was advocating that we should look at what he called at the time exporting real estate as a means to generate foreign currency earnings. Now, it's a very, it's a new topic for Egypt. We really do not have experience in this. We do not have a track record, and we do not really have the reputation of being the second home destination globally. I mean, it's a fact. We have to accept it, and we have to acknowledge it, because we kind of tend to raise the expectation without any solid base, let's say. So I'm going to start with Engineer Hesham, because, like I said, to me, he was the pioneer who started propagating this idea many years ago, and in fact, he is the chairman of the Real Estate Export Council. So I have two questions for you. The first one is if you could give all of us a brief on what this new initiative by the Ministry of Finance to help developers generate dollars, give us a brief what it entails, because it's, to say the least, it's controversial. And secondly, in your own personal view, does it do the trick, or there are many shortcomings? Please.
Thank you, Karim. As you said, we spoke and we were together in Dubai talking about the same issue, but it was not 10 years, it's about 15 years.
بلاش فضايح.
I want to say something that maybe now people are talking about export of real estate. This is, all of us are talking about this topic, because now we are in shortage with foreign currency. But from 2008, 2007, there was really trials to buy second home for foreigners, and I have to say that Sharm el-Sheikh, El Gona, was the pioneers in this field. But by that time, we started to talk with the government to make it more organized. It was known, but it's not organized. I remember by that time, Turkey was starting the same issue, and Greece was starting the same issue, Cyprus was starting the same issue, but the difference that they were organized with the government. There was a plan, a strategic plan, marketing plan, branding the country. There was a lot of things to encourage people to buy their properties, foreigners. Now, we are talking about this issue, about this topic, as if we are starting to talk about this topic now. However, the other countries like Turkey, like Cyprus, like Greece, they have about more than 15 to 16 billion US dollars every year coming from foreigners buying real estate in these countries. If we started by that time making something organized, I think we were now not talking about that we have we need to bring foreign currency for the country. I think maybe 10 or 15 billion US dollars were coming, more than Canal de Suez, coming for foreign currency in Egypt. However, now we are in this situation. I want to, before we talk about what the Minister of Finance proposed to us as developers 1 month ago, it's not true that there is not foreign currency coming to Egypt to buy real estate. We have a portion that is coming without any effort from us as developers or from any member of the government. There is the Egyptian working abroad. We have some statistics saying that the Egyptian is not sure this statistic is accurate, but I think talking together as developers, maybe between 3 to 4 billion US dollars are coming from Egyptian working abroad to buy properties in Egypt. However, if we see the report of the central bank in Egypt, what we see in the central bank is about 400 to 500,000 only US dollars from the real estate. 400 million. 400 million. What happened is, this is the issue why the Minister of Finance are addressing now some incentives. There is more than 4 billion are coming for foreigners, from Egyptians working abroad first, and some Arab from the GCC to buy properties in Egypt. But the issue is that these dollars are not coming in the system. These dollars are coming in the black market, because now we face another problem was not there before when we start talking about exporting real estate. Now we have a problem of having different prices of two rates of the US dollar. Part of the money is coming out of the system, but the issue is part of the money is not coming at all, and the trading of the exchange of the dollars with Egyptian pounds are made abroad. And this is another issue. So this is why now the Minister of Finance start to think what incentive we have to give to these people to not to buy, because they are buying, but how to have their dollars in the system. And this is the issue that's saying, like the issue of the cars, imported cars, that if you buy and you bring your dollars in the system, the developers will take the money in Egyptian pounds, but you can have back 80% of your amount paid in US dollars after 10 years, with the value of the Egyptian pounds by that time.
Yes, actually, I wanted to really specifically ask you about this, because does it really serve the purpose? I mean, is it really an incentive, or is it overcomplicating an issue, given that the real question here, and I think the main impediment, is having two very, very different rates. So I'm thinking, what is the real incentive for somebody in the Gulf, let's say, to pay the amount of the property in dollars at the current official rate, take it back, or take 80% back after 10 years? It's just, I don't know. I mean, that's just me speaking, but is this an incentive?
Attractive? I think with this difference, with double, it will not be too attractive. But I think we have to implement the system, implement the idea, because I don't think that we will still living with this big difference. I'm not saying that there will never be black market, but the difference is, the more the difference is narrow, the more it can be attractive.
Okay. So really, I mean, it is a major issue, of course, because at the moment it's almost double.
Yes.
Right. So that will sabotage.
If it is 20-30%, I think it will be attractive.
Maybe. Okay. Right. Now, this is one thing. Now, another question I wanted to ask you, also for all our benefit. I speak with, developers, colleagues of yours, and so on, about the possibility of the developers themselves selling directly to expats in the Gulf and so on in dollars. And I was surprised when one of them told me, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to. So is this...
The issue is not it's allowed or not. Now the government have no objection on this, but the issue is not allowed or not. It's the dollars, how we will make the value of the unit with the dollars. We'll make it with the value of the black market, of the official market. If we make it with the black market, then the developers are losing. Who will pay for us the difference if we make it with the official value, the official market? And after that, the dollars, you are obliged to put it in the system at the official rate.
Yeah, but
it's an issue.
But from what I know, most developers, when they price their units, they use they don't use the dollar official rate. They use black market variation of it, and in fact, some of them tell me they price it every week because of the movement of the currency.
We cannot say that the developers are pricing with the rate of the US dollar, the black market. We are pricing our cost with the building materials, which is related to the dollars, but it's not directly with the dollars. This is an issue.
Technicality.
Yeah, but no, because what I'm saying that this is an issue of the costing of the building.
Yes.
So we cannot. We are obliged. It will lead to the same issue, that we are as if we are pricing with the dollar in the black market. But in reality, our problem is not with the dollar. Our problem is the building materials.
Yes, which takes us back to the dollars. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I mean, we're going to come back to this, but Ibrahim al-Missiri, you are sitting on one of the remaining jewels on the coast, Somabay. And the past few months, maybe a year or two, you've been very active in developing and expanding not only the footprint, but the product. And one of the things that you have been focusing on is the real estate side. So foreigners, expats in general, buying property in Egypt, we have seen a trend over the past several years. For Europeans, it's been mostly resorts. Guna, perfect example, before the Providence Charm, until it was prohibited. And Somabay, you're obviously trying to catch up on that. So my question to you is, why would a European pensioner, to be more specific, decide or consider to buy in Somabay, in the Red Sea in general now, when they have options like Engineer Hesham said, Turkey, Cyprus, Greece, and so on? Why would he come to buy from you in Somabay? I mean, I know it's beautiful and everything, but why?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the lovely introduction.
You've got to pay for that.
Look, I think on your specific question, the foreigners are buying in Egypt. It's a very simple answer. We are the only place within 4 hours flight time from Europe that has winter sun, full stop. There's nothing. This is Egypt's main competitive advantage. Turkey doesn't have it, Cyprus doesn't have it, Greece doesn't have it, Tunis doesn't have it, Morocco doesn't have it. It's a monopoly, guys. It's very simple, straightforward. The only problem is ourselves. We are overcomplicating a very simple equation. So, as pensioners in horrible European winter, now with the huge gas bills on heating and energy and whatnot, it is ideal. And of course, Egypt is very affordable relative to those markets, because those markets have moved up in terms of price per square meter if you measure in euros, let's say. For Egypt, actually, especially even if you add the devaluation, is dirt cheap. If people are selling at now the prices are in the 100,000, 120,000 pounds per square meter, I think that's less than 1,500 euros per meter. It's nearly 1,000 euros per meter. So that's nothing. If you talk about Greece, it's from 3,000 to 10,000 euros per meter. It's affordable. It's great weather. But there are challenges to make that flowing, and it's all related back to an intricacy of issues. Staying in country, etc. But answering your question, it's a very straightforward formula. We will win. But
yes, we will. It's the same for tourism.
Yeah.
We are within 4 or 5 hour radius from most destinations, with 12-month season, diversity and whatnot. But that leads to the next question is, given all that, why isn't there a flurry of buyers clamoring to buy properties in Soma, in Guna, in Hurghada, and whatnot? Why?
Well, look, in the Red Sea, it's a bit different to the rest of Egypt because we're under the jurisdiction of the Tourism Development Authority, so we can sell in dollars. So we don't have the issue. And until we had the double exchange rate, actually, yani, right now, 30% of our sales were to foreigners in foreign currency, and it's okay. I think right now, it's a wait-and-see game in terms of how do you pay for it. But why we don't have a flurry, number one, it's the biggest problem Egypt has is, which is also, yes, a tourism issue, is flights. We are an island. People don't realize that. I keep saying it everywhere. You cannot get to Egypt by any means other than air. So you're surrounded by Libya, Sudan, war, Israel, Gaza, war, and then the Red Sea and the Med. So you're an island. So without an airline, you don't have an airline. Yani Egypt Air has 60 planes or something. That's smaller than your typical travel agency in Europe. They have more planes. Therefore, this inability to come and go makes it very expensive. You can fly anywhere in Europe for 30 to 60 pounds or something like that, while coming to Egypt costs you a bit of a fortune. That's an issue. Entry into the country is not easy. We think it's easy and we're a touristic country. I don't think so, actually. Out of 208, I don't know, or maybe now 210 countries around the world, only 30 have the privilege of entering Egypt easily. So that's a very big problem. Most people in the Gulf who are not European nationals can't come. So that's another issue. Inability to set up bank accounts. All the schemes and regulations related to the government in terms of benefits as a foreigner to buy in Egypt, which have been in place now for nearly 10 years, have not been implemented. And the simple thing of, they keep saying, if you buy a property like in Greece, you get residence. I don't know of anyone who's been able to do it. How many transactions per year? But it's not really implemented. It's very, very difficult. Yeah, but the law was there 10 years ago or more, but ما فيش لائحة تنفيذية. You can't execute it. So all these barriers, which in my view are very easy to implement, are the main thing in not opening the floodgates. The other thing on Egyptian expats, which I agree, our biggest market, right? We have, I don't know what, 4, 5, 6 million people in Saudi and Dubai, which is a very big market. But unfortunately, the connectivity bardo to Egypt from the Gulf is very difficult. You have to go to Cairo. What people don't realize is the Red Sea is 1 hour closer. Jeddah is closer to Hurghada than Cairo to Hurghada. But it's not a possibility. The ferries also don't work. So all of these things make it very difficult to commute. That complication, it's all logistical. Like yes, people would come, they'd buy, they love it here. Medical insurance is a big thing for the Europeans. That's a big bottleneck. We tried a lot that you have to marry the insurance policies of pensioners with the health services here. The UK had a bit of a stab at it, I don't know, 15 years ago when the NHS tried to tie up with Dar Fuad for a while. So yeah.
Okay, well, yes, please.
To resume what Ibrahim said, what he said is very true. You can summarize this in one thing. How many tourists are coming in Egypt? Sorry? How many tourists are coming in Egypt? Now, it's 14 million, okay? How many they are coming for Turkey? Now, 40. By the time we started talking about exportation of real estate, how many tourists came to Turkey? Less than Egypt in 2010. So I'm saying that if you want to buy second home, you have to be active in attracting tourists in Egypt. Because the best buyer in second home is the tourist. When he comes once, twice, and he's happy, he will buy. So it goes together. It's parallel. It goes together. We will find that Spain, Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, in the Mediterranean, they are the most exporting real estate, and they have the bigger number of tourists.
It's a very good point, actually. Ibrahim, what you said was is very interesting, and I think the key point here, all the ingredients are there. I mean, we've always known that all our lives. Yet, the solution is extremely simple, as you say. But what does that tell me is, doesn't anybody see the big picture? Anybody who can coordinate all the parts, the aviation, the tourism, the interior, I mean, because it's all one ecosystem. And it's no good you or Hesham marketing and traveling and blah, 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 while all the rest of the ecosystem is in disarray. So maybe this is to Hesham, like you are interacting with the government. Surely you have brought up all these things. I mean, it's not rocket science. Are we getting anywhere? Are you getting any response? Do they see the problem? I mean, or because it's very confusing when it's so simple. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay, let's talk. For example, let's talk. For example, that we were asking a lot of years before about giving residency to people who are buying properties in Egypt. We started to talk about this maybe 10 years ago, but we arrived a little bit late, but we have the law less than 1 year ago. We have the law. So it's starting. The implementation is hard because there is only the, how I call it, the security mentality. Maybe make the implementation of these things a little bit late, but let's fight. Already we have the success of having the law. This is a success. Having the law, because before there was no law talking like this. But I think this is not only the issue, because I don't think that Europeans will be, for them having the Egyptian nationality or Egyptian residency is not something very attractive. But we can talk about other things. We can talk about registration. You are, I think, the only country that you cannot register your unit when you buy it. You cannot register it. If you go to Shara Akar, you will not register. You will not. You will not even, I don't think that in Somabay you have registered any unit. No. I don't think that all my projects in Ain al-Sukhna, North Coast, I have compounds from 2001. It's not registered until now. Until now, foreigners, they don't understand they can buy from the developer with the contract like this. They want to be registered. So when they buy, they don't have to return back to the developer to change the contract. We have to implement a more, how do you call it? The registration is not Shara Akari. They don't have Shara Akari there in Europe. They have no there. We asked a lot of times. That's the TDA or the government itself, the entity of the government which give us the land, make the approval of the contract and finish. We don't need the Shara. This is one of the things. Yeah.
This is again. This is part of an arcane ecosystem that needs somebody way up there to have a bird's eye view and start putting all these pieces together. But I guess that's for another day. But let me go back to Zeinab, actually. Zeinab, you are now heading Knight Frank. I know it's a recent appointment and whatnot, but you've been in the market for a long time. Knight Frank, as we all know, is sort of the blue chip of property companies in the UK and international. And from my own experience with them, they deal really with the higher end of the market. So I have two questions for you. Why did Knight Frank choose to come to Egypt now? And does that mean they see demand? And secondly, you are working primarily in the sort of English, UK, European market in terms of your traditional client base. And this is the client base which I personally think we should focus on. the European pensioners in particular. So the question for you is, why did you, not you personally, but why did Knight Frank come now to Egypt? What is your mandate? What is your agenda? And secondly, do you think that we are qualified to be a serious contender for second home acquisitions by Europeans? And if not, why?
Okay, so first of all, why now? I think the decision was actually a bit too late. I think if they had entered maybe 5 years earlier, around the time where other consultancies entered the market, they would have made a much bigger impact. Having said that, I don't believe it's ever too early or too late to enter the Egyptian real estate market. It's always happening. It's a country of 110 million people. There's always demand, there's always supply, there's always work, no matter what the asset class is. So I think they focused more on the Middle East. They've been in Africa for a very long time, and this was mainly the last piece of the puzzle for them to bridge between the Middle East, Europe, and Africa to be the main connecting point between all of them. The next question would be, are we actually viable for investments from Europe? I think we definitely have a shot. I think everyone needs to work together. Yes, the government could have done more previously, but now that we understand the situation, there's not much they can do. Their hands are a bit tied because they were a bit late in taking action. I still believe there's a lot that can be done from the developer side. Everyone's taken the upside cycle. I'm a bit too honest, I'm sorry. But I think developers can take the initiative and lead the government in the right direction. We need a lot of marketing, we need a lot of branding, we need a lot of positioning to attract these investments from abroad. I think right now it's difficult because of our geographic location, given what's happening in the region, which is making it very difficult for Europeans to actually acknowledge that this is a place they can move to. And surprisingly, Dubai and Saudi are now taking the lead in senior living. They're creating these compounds that are designed for this, with every single service that is required to complement senior living, whether it's for local seniors, to just make sure that the whole community serves it, and it's right next to where the rest of the family lives, or it's people from Europe that are wanting better winters. So I think with Europe, they're very price sensitive, they're very political sensitive, but we stand a very, very good chance in attracting demand from the GCC. And we've done this research recently about the demand from ultra high net worth GCC nationals. And we, as the local team, were shocked by the results. So everyone we asked, 97% of them already own properties here. 92% are willing to purchase more units here. They love the North Coast, they love the Red Sea. But when we talked to them, where in the Red Sea, they said Sharm el-Sheikh. So we said, what about Guna? What about Somabay? They have no idea what this is. So I think, I think with the GCC, it's a different approach. You need to go to them. You need to pay money for them to see you. And then they will come. But again, everyone outside of Egypt is not used to off-plan sales, installments. They're just ready to walk into a unit, we like it, we want to buy it. They have no problem with paying in cash, they have no problem in paying in foreign currency, and they're here to stay. They're actually, the majority of them, around 78%, are buying it to actually use it, not to rent it out. It's not an investment. They love coming to Egypt, and this is covering Qatar, this is covering Bahrain, Saudi, UAE, Kuwait, Oman. They love it here. It's very similar culture. It's a similar background, language, much better weather, and it just works. They love it.
And very cheap.
And very, very, even branded residences, which Egyptians and Europeans consider very expensive in Egypt, are a lot cheaper than in the GCC.
I think it kind of all ties in with what we're talking about. It's the broader ecosystem, and how do you position the destination from all aspects, especially security perspective and procedures, and making it easy, as we say in computer language, user-friendly. We're not really user-friendly, are we? But Zeinab said something very interesting. Maybe it is something that you should take up at the council as a market. Senior living. Senior living. That's a very interesting word you use, because because when I think of Europeans, I'm always thinking of pensioners, which is essentially the same, because they want kinder winter, of course, and many cases they are subsidized in one way or another, either by the government or by the insurance or by the pension. So that there's no real additional cost to them. In fact, they save money by moving here. So maybe we should develop something, a new product, let's say, around the senior living, which of course has to entail having medical facilities.
We will never, we talked a lot about senior citizens from Europe to come. All these fundamentals are true. The weather, the cost of living, everything. But number one for them, before all of this, medical. If you have a really medical service, grade A, I'm not talking about grade A as luxurious. No, I'm talking grade A as a facilities. You will have a lot of places in Egypt that can be promoted to these people. If you see countries like Cyprus, for example, or Greece, especially Cyprus, there is a lot of senior British citizens are going to spend 5-6 months in Cyprus in the winter. However, our winter is better than Cyprus, but the winter in Cyprus is better than England. But there is a lot of facilities that can be safe about their health. If something happened occasionally, then he won't that he will be served as if he is in London.
I think this is really ABC. I mean,
but can I jump in here, because I think we've worked with a lot of developers over the years, and I think why don't the developers consider bringing those medical operators from like the target markets countries to operate health facilities here? You don't have to create your own brand. We failed in that model to treat Egyptians, because Egyptians in Egypt are very physician-led. They're not really hospital brand-led. They follow the physician where they go and just trust that this hospital is going to treat them. With foreigners, it's different. It's the brand of the hospital, the reviews, what kind of specializations are in there. So again, I think it's chicken or the egg. Do you invest first, or do you sell first, make profit, and then you invest? And I think also this needs to be in consideration why the Gulf is like running leaps ahead of us. It's because they're thinking ahead. If we want to attract senior living investors from the European area, we're going to build these facilities first, we're going to invest, we're going to bring these operators, and once these are up and running, everyone's going to follow. You can't start by just selling first and then finding out what the service is that they need. You need to do your homework first.
Absolutely.
I have a point on this because we worked on this for several years to bring one of the largest medical health providers in Germany, Baden-Baden, to establish a facility. There are a few things that unfortunately people don't realize. Number one, all medical facilities, especially that are European focused, are loss-making, because according to European law and the rates that are imposed on the medical providers, if they treat their own citizens, it's actually lower than the cost, and it becomes a government subsidy. So the model that was built was for actually non-Europeans, and when we tried to bring them, they said, you can't actually get the Europeans. It was a reverse. They wanted to build medical facilities in Somabay, in that case, for Egyptians and Arabs who are struggling with visa-related issues in traveling to Europe to come to Egypt and accordingly get the services. Now, interestingly, Jordan did a better job We were going ahead, but we lost that, and the issue was insurance. At the end of the day, the guarantee of payment. We've met with all the big names in insurance to tell them, let's do it and develop it, and we'll invest. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg. If you got Sir Magdi Yaoub, yeah, and you went to any investment fund or bank and you told them, before you heard the name Magdi Yaoub, and you said, I'm going to build the biggest heart center in Aswan. So they tell you, let's do a market study and let's get data of the demand. Probably you would have not had a feasibility study. You will not be able to get the funding because there's no data. But here, so there's a bit of build it and they will come, which people don't like, investors don't like. If you were to go and say, okay, we wanted to build a world-class medical facility in Somabay, there is no data. The interesting thing, though, is that from Guna all the way to Sudan, there is no medical facilities. And people don't even have any metrics about the humans who actually live there. There is zero metrics in Egypt. And accordingly, you cannot do a financial model that's bankable. So we've been going around in circles. We've talked to most banks. It's not going to happen. You will need someone who's willing to jump.
Canal Bank will do it for you.
Happy to do.
No, but I beg to differ a little bit here, because I don't think you need Mount Sinai or such names to be here to attract the buyers. I'll give you one example which I know firsthand, Guna. One of the first things they did was the hospital. Nice, clean, no brand, young, good doctors, but it's there. And that was the main reason so many people came to Guna to buy, because they know there is a hospital 24/7 with decent doctors, good equipment there for them. So you don't have to have this, huge brand running the hospital. You just need a decent, standard facility that will take care of emergencies. And I can't believe, for example, that North Coast, with the trillions that are sunk there, nobody thought of doing Medivac or a clinic. And I mean, they talk about bringing Mediterranean buyers from Italy and whatnot. No, they're not going to come unless there is, number one on the checklist is medical. What if something happens to me? So I don't think you need that. And also, again, I go back to Guna. The hospital was never intended as a profit center. It was part of the cost of doing business. It probably went on the marketing budget. Maybe they are making money now, I don't know. But in the beginning, that was not the idea. The idea, they felt it was important to have a medical facility because we want to sell to Europeans. And they were right. So I think that, again, is a pretty much simple solution. But like you said, and Zeinab, it goes back to the developers to take the lead with the government. I know Hesham has been trying a lot, but there's no other way. Let me go to Kaoud. You run hospitality at Colliers. And my question, or the subject I want to ask is, we've all been talking about ways to export real estate, get dollars, and all the rest of it. We heard about the big impediment, the currency, the exchange rate, which will eventually disappear. It's not going to be forever, This is a transitional period. I don't know how long, but it's not a permanent state of affairs, so things will stabilize. There was a deal recently involving the famous 7 hotels that were sold to a consortium with Emiratis and Egyptians. And I think the reaction was mixed, how this deal was received. But that aside, do you think hospitality assets have a role to play in exporting real estate?
So firstly, thank you for having me over here. So definitely it has an impact. So, and I will go a little bit backwards. So we covered multiple aspects of it, like the legislative part that you mentioned earlier and all the challenges with the ecosystem and who is involved into this part. Over the last year, alhamdulillah, like we have been managing transactions with a couple of $2 billion of FDI coming to Egypt. So with very minor entities within Egypt that we managed to a little bit get to a solution that can meet who we are targeting. So we are mainly dealing with family offices, ultra high net worth individuals, sovereign funds, and investment institutions. So that's the main key in our capital market. They see Egypt as an opportunity because of the evaluation of what's happening, the location, the geographic, and all of these things. So we were mandated to start looking for a lot of opportunities in real estate over here, particularly in hotel and tourism. And we managed to secure like transactions, like 20 plus hotels so far, mainly Sharm el-Sheikh and in Cairo, and now few coming in the North Coast. Exporting the real estate over here is more of how to monetize the quality of life. So you need to create a quality of life. So each developer over here, they need to think, what are we offering to this clientele? They are not going to come just like because you're selling with multiple brokers in the GCC or even in Europe with some ads, it's not going to give you a big change. So in order to get this client to buy a second property over here, or the pension that would like to come and stay over here in Egypt, you need to look at the full quality of life, whether from how to create a happy city, how to create a happy buyer. Once he finds all the fundamentals, all the parameters over here, then we have an edge in order to start targeting this client. This client now, they have projects coming in UAE, projects coming in Turkey, as Mr. Hesham mentioned earlier. You have as well projects coming in Saudi that they're providing a very nice product. Product mix in general, when we did in our recent study between Egypt and Saudi, a nice product mix with a multi-use, that's a premium on price, somewhere between 15 to 30%. With few exception developers in Egypt, it got up to 45%. If you looked at the company itself, the developers themselves, that's another premium, depending how strong they are, that's another premium of 20%. If we looked at the brand itself of the real estate, here we are talking about another 15% price premium. So what we are trying to do now is mainly working with the destinations on a strategic level, whether we have a single developer or multiple developers in the same territory. The government now is mandating us is to look after the strategic plan for the destination. We have been mandated on a big project at the North Coast and as well on another one on the Red Sea in Sharm el-Sheikh. Having this vision with them, then we became very optimistic that we are currently exploring a nice delivery of product. We started seeing the light that is changing. Things are being listened. The perception of the government is very different than before, and it's giving us more and more projects to look into them. Coming back to the hospitality assets, hospitality or the hotelarization of real estate, نحن نقدر ازاي نغير عقارات كتيرة to real estate to hotel industry is not that easy. Like in big project, yes. On a minor project, whether from an operator perspective or from an investor perspective, still we have challenges into it. On the big scale, you're fine because you get like a lot of support from most of the entities. On the medium size and to the small entities, no, these stakeholders still need a lot of support, whether the support is coming financially or supporting coming from legislative part as well, or شركات الإدارة or the management company, they still like finding a lot of challenges over here. Plus consistencies. Consistencies is like, and having a good quality product in Egypt is a challenge. So what we are currently doing, that we are trying to get like different forms of JVs between people who has a very nice success story, especially in the region, especially in a condition similar very much to Egypt, and how can we bring this expertise over here with a very different level of JVs that we are currently discussing on those mandates.
Interesting. Okay, so basically, you are feeling positive
yes.
about the prospect, which is good.
Yeah.
And you're also feeling positive about, if I understand correctly, the approach or the vision of the government, which is good, surprising, but good. But again, there's one piece missing, which Engineer Hesham mentioned, you mentioned, Ibrahim, as well. It's all part of the ecosystem.
Yes, for sure.
And that starts, and I think we said this, remember, and Ibrahim, it starts at the airport. I mean, the whole experience starts at the airport. So I still go back that we need an overhaul of the whole ecosystem, the whole software, let's say, to make it more user-friendly and accommodating and less hostile. Because, I mean, let's call it by its name. It's hostile. But it's good, you're positive. You're young, so that's good, you're positive. Now we go to the money side. Tamer, Emirates NBD, you've been here for a long time in Egypt. You're one of the more active banks. You have quite a large footprint in the UAE and GCC in particular. And you have a fairly large Egyptian client base in your Gulf network. So I would look at banks like Emirates NBD from two perspectives. One, to see how you feel as an Egyptian bank in terms of supporting all that you have heard here in terms of real estate development, hospitality, whatnot, developers, and also from what can Emirates NBD with your network do to help promote Egyptian real estate with buyers in the Gulf, be them Egyptian or non-Egyptian?
Thanks, Karim. Actually, it's an interesting one, and normally banks comes at the end of the cycle. So when the market is well established, now you get the banks stepping in. And before talking about the role of the bank and what we can do as well, I want to touch base on some regulatory frameworks, because when you're talking about lending and financing, you will need to have the regulatory framework that's set up, that supports the fact that you are selling the foreign currency and having the contact in foreign currency. So this is an issue which I don't think it's difficult, because at the very beginning you mentioned that some developers are shy from having a dollar-based contract, and this is something that will require some regulations into when we can do that, and it's not that difficult. The second one, on the regulatory framework, I think on the developers themselves, because everyone here was talking about the quality, and I was discussing with Zeinab before the session, the spending that developers are doing now on their units and the infrastructure. And I think the quality as well, we need some sort of regulations in terms of you are exporting real estate. So you need to have standards, and you need to make sure that you are meeting the international demand when it comes to how this is set up. And then next comes the banks. Normally you will need banks to lend to the buyers. This is very classic. So you will have a retail buyer either taking a personal loan or taking a mortgage loan. And of course, we are present in GCC, you are present in Saudi, you are present in Dubai, we are even in Turkey, we have a very, very big bank there. So having the proposition to make facilitation for the lending is very much feasible, provided yet you have the infrastructure there in terms of the regulatory piece. And then when you're talking about lending to retail, you are talking about this is a personal loan, a normal salary personal loan, then this is much easier. You have a customer, they want to get a loan to buy a unit in Egypt, they have their own means of payment, so this is affordable, they will get a loan and then they will pay for it. The second one, which is a little bit difficult when you're talking about a mortgage-backed personal loan, because now you are lending offshore, you will have a charge over the real estate in Egypt. It is still an Egyptian pound denominated market, and it will continue to be. So the setup and the liquidity as well need to be there when it comes to having a secondary market. And then Because when you're talking about lending, you need to think about how you exit and how, if your customer is not meeting the repayment, how they would sell their unit. And with having this in place, you are now talking about how we can have a secondary market whereby if a customer wants to get back out or to sell the unit for any reason, there is someone else buying it, okay? And again, this is with the fact that this is a wide-led initiative. And again, creating a marketplace for that among all developers. We can have this market, it's not that difficult at all, provided that we know that we are creating this market for expats and Egyptians working abroad, and we know quite well because the main theme of this entity is how we can attract the foreign currency. So this is not about also of getting the foreign currency from Egypt and then creating another parallel market, which is the last thing anyone looking for. So this is about creating the market. And then thinking loudly about what we have been discussing, it's not only about also GCC banks. Why not in the future Egyptian banks support foreigners who want to buy the asset in foreign currency? Because like any lending in foreign currency that we do, we have access to the source of income. We know, we study, we regulate it, and then we can even, in Egypt, do a secondary loan market for foreigners, provided that we have units and we know how much we spend. This is about the banking and idea on what can be done. Also, the same initiative also, I'm thinking it requires also everyone to be in a win-win. So you need to think about the buyer coming to Egypt. So there should be some incentives, whether in the quality, in the price, in the terms and the conditions. You need the developer also to benefit from the initiative, because also developers are struggling now with what they spend in terms of cost, how much they spend, how much the inflation. So they also need to figure out how they can benefit, and largely speaking, of course, how the economy will benefit from getting the foreign currency and convert it into Egyptian pound. So this is what I see a framework for this initiative to develop. And if I'm talking about the initiative as a government initiative, it's okay, but I think the government role here will be more of a regulatory and some rules. But I look for every developer to have a marketing initiative, to have spending abroad, to sell this. Now they can work with banks in GCC in terms of arranging into co-branded deals, and we can do business, because at the very beginning of the initiative, it will be very challenging to do loans in dollars when you don't have the liquidity in the market. So at the beginning, you will need the big developers arranging with the banks to have some sort of reserve accounts, some sort of dollar deposits to secure the loan sometimes at the beginning. So it is something that will develop gradually, like any financial product that we launch and do. There is a journey. It will start at a little bit with some cautious precautions, and then it will develop as the market grows up and the liquidity grows up. Now it will spread wide.
Thank you. Ibrahim, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, please. I find it very hard that everybody's saying the developer should do this, the developer should do that. The reality is the developer is the bank in Egypt right now. That's the truth. We are the banks. The banks are not doing their job. You want to hide behind regulation, fine. Maybe that's the law. But I'm sorry, the bank is the first start. If you look at any operating market in real estate, in any economy, first thing, the developer even has a bank in the sales center. You go, you get your mortgage. Now, the fact that I know we have a mortgage system, but it's not an operating mortgage system. So we don't have a mortgage system. And every time somebody tells me we do, of course we don't. Hesham said, land in Egypt is not registered. خلاص. So the banks can't lend us. They cannot even lend the individuals. So there are no mortgages. So now, the developer is the one that is taking the risk on the client, because the bank doesn't. The developer is the one that is financing, taking all the interest rate, all the currency rate. Where on planet Earth? Where? Let's name countries where Egypt. A developer has to do that other than in Egypt. A developer should be very simple. We build the product, we get paid 100%, and the client gets deals with the bank in terms of how they want to do their finance, depending on their credit rating and so on and so forth. Right now, the developer is doing all of that. The developer has to do the hospital, the developer has to do the school, the developer has to do the marketing of the country. At the end of the day, what we are seeing is a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac situation. We are on the cusp of a potential collapse because the developers are carrying the economy right now. The frenzy of buying that we saw in Jan because of the imminent devaluation, the numbers are insane. We were talking about over 700 billion in sales. All of this in the pocket of developers. That is scary. Ragheb was talking about it. It's becoming scary because nobody's taking the risk except the developer. So if these developers, the small ones are going to collapse, we know that, then the middle ones, and then the big ones are going to implode. And we're all going to watch and blame it on the developer because not a single institution, the bank takes zero risk. Who is willing to give any touristic, you don't want to open an account for the foreigner. You don't probably want to open an account even for the Egyptian. Give the mortgage to the foreigner in foreign currency at the interest rate زي في دبي $600. All of this is not happening and everybody's watching. So I'm sorry, it's not fair.
No, Ibrahim, let me
answer this back quickly. So I'll tell you something. The mortgage, I think,
bankers here, they're going to
the finance is there.
تامر قول عشان حسين بيه عايز يقول حاجه.
اوكي اتفضل حسين.
قول.
No, it's the mortgage is there. We know that the issue is in the interest rates. We know that the issue is in the inflation. It's part of it. For the consumer, we find it more expensive. But also, now this is not about the foreign currency and the export. We have a unique proposition in Egypt when it comes to real estate. When the developers start selling before building and before making the developments, and from what I have seen, the developers are happy with the setup that's coming this way because
I don't think they had a choice. I don't think they're happy. I don't think they had a choice.
I want to add something because, I participate in lots of panels and I attend a lot of meetings with the government. And every time you have this is an industry. The real estate is an industry. Every industry has a lot of stakeholders. If you want an industry, whatever industry is, you want it to be healthy, then every stakeholder has to do his role. Okay? We are looking at the real estate industry in Egypt with one stakeholder, a developer. It's not true. Let's talk about, even if we're talking about export, we are talking today about second home. But something very important, the real estate funds. We don't have real estate funds in Egypt. However, it represents more than 50% of the real estate market in the world, and it is protection of real estate. We were in meeting, talking with whoever the entity is, governmental, talking about some regulations that you have to encourage the real estate funds. It's impossible to have a healthy industry of real estate without real estate funds. It represents 50% of the market all over the world. True. You know what he asked us to do? Why you as developers, you don't you regroup yourselves and make a fund? I told him, I never seen in the world a developer making a fund.
But you're right. I've always held the view that the biggest flaw in this market is that the developer is doing many things that he shouldn't do and is going to.
He's only stakeholder.
Hesham Bey.
صباح الخير. First, I don't want to get to the debate of banks and developer. I think it's very simple. We all have an issue. We should look at it as a win-win. Win-win for everybody. For developer, buyer, whatever, the expat, foreigner, and also the government. So I think the main issue that everyone is trying to take apart from himself. The government want to take apart, development want to take apart extra. The beneficiary said, what's for me? So everyone want to take apart. If we look to the issue as a win-to-win, simplify it, everybody get win, I think it will be easier. This is one thing. The other thing is about solution. All the solution about visa, flight, medical, bank account, registration, hospital, it's all very simple. Very, very simple. But I think the main issue is that we want to touch the star before the ground. We should start on phases. You mentioned about hospitals. If we can get hospitals to, for emergency and provide flight for extra attention to go to other complex, I think if the developer, with the government, with some investors, with the help of the banks, having a simple facility for emergency, this can work as a step one. Step two, then we can make in the government of البحر الأحمر complex أكبر شوية نقدر we can send. So we have to think not about bringing the most successful hospital in the world and put it here. So we have to start thinking of phases in order to get solution. The last thing about banks, foreigner can open account if he have with his visa. He don't have to have a residency. Also a passport, stamp with entrance, and also proof of income. Also, developer can help him. He said you don't have to register. He can send him a letter. Mr. X own the property in our compound. So this will help him. Until we help the registration and so on. We can talk together. We can find solution. If this is not enough, we can find of another solution to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the gist of it is too many issues, too many problems, but in reality, it really is quite simple. If we focus on it, and like Hussein said, not try and shoot for the stars in one go, because we tend to do that in general. Well, this is interesting. So I think there's one guest here which I would like to hear his opinion, Mr. Sharif Nasr, Tatweer, and formerly Palm Hills. You have been selling a lot of properties to everybody. So I want to ask you, do you see a lot of demand from expats, Egyptian expats, and then other expats? And if you do, how can you characterize it? And what do you think you can do to increase it?
As I said, touch wood, first of all. I'll tell you, we started selling, first of all, I have to say that since 2008, when I had the honor of meeting طبعا Hesham Bey Shoukri, he had the dream and the vision, the only one that had the dream and the vision of doing what is now we're discussing, which is selling outside of Egypt. He tried, everybody was really talking about it, but nobody was really interested. And then eventually he did so much during the years, so I have to really congratulate him on having the topic now on top of everybody's calendar. We started selling in Tatweer. I'll just discuss Tatweer. To expats, we tried going to Dubai. We had Hesham Bey as a pioneer trying everywhere. We went to Saudi, we went to Abu Dhabi, we went to a lot of places trying to promote the idea. We got some sales. It was just a startup. But I have to tell you that last year, for instance, we sold for 25 billion Egyptian pounds. Half of it, 50%, was to expats in the Arab world. So and we're not the only ones. All the companies now, which are selling even more or less, they all have percentages unheard of selling to expats because of the devaluation, because of lots of different reasons. What I see, very honestly, from all the very important topics that everybody discussed today, is that, and what you kindly mentioned, I think what is missing in Egypt is a regulator. Everybody has his problem, like Mr. Hesham mentioned. Everybody has his topic. We are trying as developers, some others are trying as the government, some others as the banking community. Everybody has his issue. But nobody really, unfortunately, cares much about the other. We all care about our welfare. So therefore, there is something very important that the government has to provide, or the private sector, and I prefer the private sector, an entity that can take care of regulating and coordinating all the efforts to do whatever you discussed today. Because, as you kindly mentioned, sir, it's not that difficult, because everybody has a plan to have a hospital, everybody has a plan to do a golf course, one of the best in Egypt, and. The only problem is how to organize it and to coordinate in order and to promote. We have a problem. I'm a person that is in marketing. I promise you, there is no marketing, real marketing. Everybody individually is doing the marketing, which is absurd. Everybody should have something, a big entity that is taking care of promoting Egypt, not necessarily promoting a developer or a bank or whatever. So this is what I feel.
Thank you, Sharif. I think, sorry, just 1 second. A quick comment on what Sharif is saying. One of the issues that we suffer from, and I know it personally from different lifetimes, we are not good at collective work. We just don't know how to work together. We just don't. So I'm going to make a suggestion for Engineer Hesham Bey. Sharif is saying the country needs a regulator or a body, and I think I agree with him. It should be really away from the government, because again, we tend to say everything, the government. No, they can't do it. They're not able to, and in many cases, they're not even qualified to do. So I would posit that the Real Estate Export Council is actually the most logical entity to coordinate all these things with the stakeholders. And I know Hesham has been working like crazy for many years, but I think, I don't know much about it, but I think it's missing one very important thing. This council does not have teeth. You do not have teeth. You're not empowered to make things happen. And I think that's why we have a big problem.
I think I agree with Sharif with all what he said, that we need to work not individually, but we have to brand Egypt, because one thing very important, if you met somebody and you're asking him, he want to buy a second home, he will not say, I want to buy a second home from Mr. Liptos Cholanakis in Greece. He will tell you, I want to buy a second home in Greece. What happens all these years before, you can hear somebody saying, I want to buy in Ghana, I want to buy in Somabay. As long as we don't have the client that he is saying, I want to buy in the Red Sea, or I want to buy in the North Coast, then you will not have a bulk, a market of real estate, exporting real estate for others. You have to buy in the country, or at least a destination in the country. This is why, because all of us are trying individuals to buy for foreigners. We are working something, this is not our work. Commenting on Mr. Hussein, he said that the stakeholders, everyone want to have take a bite. This is not the problem. You know what is the problem in the industry? I'm talking about industry in general, which I'm worrying about. That the stakeholders, every stakeholder are not happy of his job. For example, the brokers are not happy to being brokers. They want to become developers. The contractors are not happy to be contractor. He wants to become a developer. We don't have real estate funds. We don't have real investors. All and above, the regulator. He is not happy to be a regulator. He wants to be a competitor. I will go home after that, or this is the reality. Every stakeholder is not doing his job because he thinks that the other stakeholders have more profit than him. And I think all the stakeholders are looking to the developer that he is the richest man in the world. And this job is fantastic. And all people want to be, all of the stakeholders want to become developers. Even we see now some banks starting to become developers. It's not your bank, but some banks starting to be developers. So as long as every stakeholder is not happy of his job, we will never collaborate together. So I agree, you have to have a regulator entity. In countries like Egypt or in the developed countries, the best regulator is the government. Because you are not in Europe, you are not in states that you can have a regulatory form, a regulatory body which is private. You are not so mature to respect a regulatory form of the private sector. But, however, from 2009, 2010, we, and I'm not only myself, but with other developers, we tried a lot to have a union of developers. A body, private body, because the Council of Export, whatever bodies of real estate, is not really official in Egypt. It's something consulting. But if you want to have, like the contractors, like the actors, like whatever is a job, you want to have sort of niqaba, but in a sort of ittihad, it's better. Ittihad mutawarin. We tried, we have a law, we entered the law. I have a lot of discussions, even in the parliament. I went to the parliament, not this round, it was 2015, I think, 14, 16, I don't remember. I have 7 rounds discussing with the member of parliament about the importance of this law, and we prepared the draft of the law. We discussed it with all, whatever you want.
And then?
And then till now it's not, we didn't see it. I don't know why. This can be a sort of temporary regulatory body until the regulator, which is the government, start to understand, to be convinced that it's better for him to do his job, not to compete with us. If we see this day, then we will have a healthy industry. If we have a healthy industry, we will have a lot of dollars coming without making any effort.
Thank you. It's I think it's a mixed view from everyone, but I think what we can all agree on is we have tremendous potential, fantastic opportunity, we've always had it, and I think, Ibrahim, it was you who said the main problem is us, which I agree with, but we have to take a positive view and believe that we will be able at some point to realize what we actually need to do together and do it. Nadia? Questions from the floor? Okay. I think we'll take some questions, please. The new generation. Yes.
Gen Z. Z, I think. هم اللي هيسددوا الديون.
First of all, I'd like to say it's an honor to be here and hear you guys all talking about these problems. I'd like to address a problem you've stated and talked about briefly, but I didn't quite get the solution or what you guys think we should do to fix this problem. I quote Mr. Ibrahim saying, we have a problem with build it and they will come. We aren't, what differs us from countries like Saudi and UAE is the fundamentals of a happy life, like you guys said. So the problem is nobody's ready to take the risk or to take the first step for us to build the hospitals or to build etc. Nobody's trying to make the first step. So how can we possibly fix that? Who's supposed to take the first step for us to start and break the cycle, making us unable to develop?
Actually, very good question. Thank you for that. I think actually a lot of people are willing to break the cycle. The reality is, if you look at the destinations that have been established in Egypt, the ones you probably know, like Guna, Sahl Hashish, Soma, Marasi, etc. These are people who did go ahead and do it and drive the chain of development. But what was there was actually these were early days when there was not a lot of regulation, in simple terms, not too many rules. So, there was a Cowboys is a good one, where they were developers or people who wanted to take the risk were allocated plots of land and allowed to move. Now this is very difficult. Some people are talking about a regulator. A regulator is basically a body that sets the rules, the rules of the game. I think the first step, if you want to take something positive, one of the most successful models I've seen in the UAE is something called the RTA, the Roads and Transport Authority. When Dubai was in the early noughts, they wanted to drive development. There was too many government bodies and too many entities just to do the simple thing of releasing the network for transportation. So they established this authority, which basically had the right to look at conflict and come up with a resolution. And this authority was given the right that when it makes a decision, then it overrides all the regulation and rules, even if it's breaking rules, and everybody has to abide. And it resulted in the big boom, which we saw, which was the establishment first of the marina, and then the establishment of downtown Dubai. And it was very interesting because it was a road and transport authority that drove development in the UAE. I think if you look at the Saudi model, they started with, I think, the entertainment body, and maybe it relates more to your generation. And you look at the simple thing of, which I love music, but I struggle. We are unable to host concerts in Egypt. Simple thing. We really aren't. And it's because the rules don't allow it. And everybody wants to deny that, but the rules don't allow it. There is no body that takes the lead to say, when any artist around the world wants to tour, they can actually stop in Cairo. No, they go to Dubai first. I think you need the same in real estate or in any other discipline. There has to be that entity that can overrule and put those decisions to make that decision. And we are all bogged down, as they were all explaining, into little details, and we just keep going around in circles. So, long answer to a very good question. Sorry.
I'm happy that you are from Oasis, because all my children graduated from Oasis. I'm happy of your question of being Oasis also. This is true. What you are talking, this is true. Like Ibrahim said, and we have in the real estate in Dubai another model, the RERA. The RERA is the regulatory body of Dubai who is regulating all the real estate matters in Dubai. But we didn't hear that the RERA has a project. The RERA, it doesn't work as developer, but it's a regulator body, governmental, and everything, even if you want to make a contract, you have to register it in the RERA. So not every month, but every day you can have a statistic. This is something very important also. You can have data about what happened in the real estate market in Dubai every day from the RERA. And now with the technology that you are better than me in the technology 100%, you can have it with a push, with a button. Tick. What do you want to know about the real estate market in Dubai? This is very important, and this is a part also to encourage the export of real estate. Now the new generation who are buying properties outside their country, the first thing they will do, they will not go first, they will not go to a traditional broker. They will go to the PC or laptop or iPad and then search, and they have all the data about the real estate in Egypt. If you do this in Dubai, you will find whatever you want about the real estate in Dubai, you will find it. If you do it 100% in Greece, in Turkey, you will find it. If you try to search about Egypt, you will get confused. And then your first decision to think other way.
Can I ask another question? Yes. Do you think actually this regulator you're suggesting can fix the problem of transparency? And you, Mr. Ibrahim, as CEO of Somabay, will you actually be open to become transparent with all the real estate, all other real estates in the industry, and have a transparent connection with this regulator and with the other real estate?
100%. At the end of the day, that is the beneficial thing, not just for us, for all people in the industry. There's something actually in the hospitality called STR. Maybe Kaoud is a better person to give that, and that has nothing to do with a regulator, right? So what happens is the hotels, they share together on a platform. It's not an Egyptian platform, and they share data on daily occupancy, what they call ADR, average daily rate. So what's the rate that you sold the room, etc. Yes, people could lie, right? They can enter incorrect data. But at the end, what happens with time, and as people build credibility into the system, they start to trust that this is beneficial for them to understand the market. And it's not just about, Somabay, I don't want to share my data, so my competitor, Sahla Hashish or Guna. No, actually, we are, at the end of the day, we are the Red Sea market. We should operate as one. If we want to focus on golf, we should do one golfing destination. Hotels, real estate. We all need the information because that will lead to definitely bigger success to us.
Thank you.
تفضل هنا.
Concerning what has been mentioned to reach the level of like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and to avoid it, and we agree that we have to establish some kind of entity like RERA, which is very successful in Dubai. Why not to have here like a consortium between all the stakeholders, let's say banks, developers, contractors, legal entities, marketing agencies, and to make a consortium, their main aim is to reach a level of establishing something like RERA in Egypt. And to have like sessions of brainstorming, think tanks, till we reach the objective of having RERA Egypt. Because RERA is very effective in Dubai. Thank you.
Thank you. Suez Canal Bank is doing well. I think this is everybody's aspiration, that we should see something like this. Anybody would like to care to comment on that? Kaoud?
Yeah, I think like bringing all these stakeholders is going to make it more complicated for us. Like we take decisions very slow, and even we don't have the power to take decisions. So definitely we need a regulator. My recommendation is always like with a strong regulator to have the empowerment to take the decision. A very good company next to them, بيوت الخبرة كتيرة, so regional or international, the one to be giving the information or the statistics or the number, so in order to be taking a decision build on some sort of a strong research on what exactly the market needs. Like before any decision is being made, like what we kindly face, that we have a lot of, after things has been established, they come back to us, they come back with the challenges, how we can get out of it, or what can we do to improve. Though like we could have avoided all of this, like when you look at Saudi, they don't go into any mega project without studying it with at least multiple of one of the big firms or one of the, either regionally or globally, in order to be able to really identify what is the opportunities, how can we penetrate it, how can we attract the foreign direct investment. They are changing the perception of everyone. And this is what we will need to over here. Like simplified, definitely we need a regulator. Having the know-how and a strong expertise with them will definitely make a quick change.
Thank you. Any more questions? Please. ميكروفون فين؟ اتفضل. Sorry.
Okay. One more question for Engineer Ibrahim and all our mega developers. As you may be aware that around 20 or 20% of our population in Egypt is from 10 to 20 years old. And we all think about build to sell or build to lease type of construction. Why don't think about the entertainment like Dubai? Why don't give some sort of lands like around 40 acres for Ferrari, for IMG to attract the investors and to attract and improve the tourist in Egypt and tourism in Egypt and bring US dollar? Why only thinking about building properties?
Thank you for the question. Oh, actually, no, it is about the entertainment, at least in our segment. Entertainment is key. And people are not coming to Somabay to buy property. We're in Safega, by the way, so very far south. The entertainment in our world, for example, is number one is golf. And we went and we got Gary Player, who's Tiger Woods of his time. He's the icon of golf, and we built a 300 million EGP golf course. So we do build things and it takes a huge part of our land, and we are trying to establish the best-in-class practices for that, and we've been able to hold that position in Egypt with water sports. Actually, one of the very interesting things that we've done, not a lot of people know, is Egypt was identified as one of the top kite surfing destinations in the world. However, development in Egypt is destroying kite surfing because the rules of construction block the wind flow. Egypt is a wind tunnel, north to south. We even note in our culture, كلمة بحري وإبلي. And Somabay is identified as one of the top 5 on the planet, by the way, for that. Our neighboring land, we went to the government and we told them, construction on our land and our neighbor's land should be stopped in this zone because that's the wind tunnel for the Somabay region and the Safega region. Nobody stopped it. So our neighbor built a huge hotel on the sea, wind tunnel is gone, kite surfing has collapsed, and we lost our ranking. So is there a will? Yes. I agree with you that most developers are just looking at, let's build the real estate and sell it. Let's build a hotel, the monstrous hotel, even though the trend now is boutique. But there is, again, who do you go to protect what you're doing? I'll give you another interesting example. When the law on Dariba al-Aqariyya came out, one tax inspector came to us and said, you need to pay Dariba al-Aqariyya on the Gulf. I was like, where's the Aqar? Somebody explained that to me. Well, he said, I'm sorry, we froze your bank accounts, which they did. You have to pay 10 million pounds per year because it says malab golf. فكلمة malab, the word malab, means that it's a property. We had to go through a 5-year lawsuit cycle to get that cancelled. But there is an issue that there is nobody that owns that. The final thing on entertainment, as I was mentioning to the young gentleman there, the most regulations in Egypt are actually blocking it. We worked with other developers to establish entertainment hubs. You talk about IMG, Ferrari, whatnot. The taxation rules in Egypt basically do not allow it. And you're a banker, happy to share the information. If you look at the formula of taxes and how it is applied, because in Egypt you get taxed even if you give something for free. Okay, so if you do an event and you invite 1,000 people and then you have 1,000 paying guests, you actually have to pay full tax on the 1,000 people. So the tax is usually higher than your revenue. And there are lots and lots and lots of examples of why the formula doesn't work. So what you have is the basic thing. People are unable to, it's not just about build it and they will come. Once you build an entertainment facility, you get hit with lots of taxes and lots of fees that basically result to the financial demise of the entertainment facility. That's why.
Thank you, Ibrahim. هات الميكروفون هنا لو سمحت. Go ahead.
I have just a few comments, just no questions. First of all, I just wanted to comment about the med care, like the importance of having proper medical care or proper hospitals. It's not just important for foreigners, actually it's as important for Egyptians, because I can assure you one of my friends, she actually was about to buy a property in Somabay a couple of years ago, but then she was pregnant in her early years and had a miscarriage, and it took like 45 minutes to get her to the nearest hospital. And this was for her a deal breaker, and she went and bought a house in Rooya instead, because for her at least having a hospital, which I have to say is in a good shape, was very important. So I think this is something we need to bear in mind, just that it's not only important for foreigners, it's as important for Egyptians as well, to feel safe and that they have the medical facilities. And with regard to Baden-Baden, I personally think that people should look at something like this as a project on its own, because you have the Siyaha Ilagiyya is actually Egypt is very gifted with many very good doctors. We all know that we have some of the best doctors in the world here. So maybe people should consider this as a project on its own, and not just doing this as something to promote real estate investments in Egypt, yeah. Because it can be a very profitable one, given the lower cost for example, if you compare it to going to Stuttgart or somewhere in Germany. And third thing, I just wanted to mention that also in the Safag area, you have the Golden Triangle project, which should have seen the light now since many years. And this is also another way to promote real estate investments, so that you can also create jobs for not only pensioners, but also like investment opportunities, because we had foreigners coming and interested in buying properties in Somabay, but they wanted to develop business as well in the same neighborhood. Yeah. So I think it should be, as you said, like looking at the matter from an overall perspective, analyzing and focusing on marketing. And finally, I think it's very crucial that Egypt would establish marketing centers abroad, everywhere, because this is, it has been an issue which is on the table now for many years for tourism, and having to do all the marketing via offices in Istanbul or elsewhere is not really, had proven to be really a complete failure, and it blocks very, let's say, large number of tourists from coming to Egypt. So I think this is now an issue which Egypt needs to really tackle and focus on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karim.
Okay, we can't say no to Oasis, so we cannot say no to Oasis.
Hi. Knowing that high inflation rates, such as the ones in Egypt right now, signal uncertainty and economic instability, can this discourage foreign buyers from investing in Egypt, knowing the risk of fluctuations in the local currency levels? And how can we reassure them about the safety of investment in Egypt?
Thank you.
It's perfect question. I'm saying you, it's the best question that was addressed today. And this point I wanted to talk about, but I don't want to talk about a lot of topics, but this is a very important issue. We are talking about exporting real estate now. We are very enthusiastic to realize it. And we lost the opportunity to tackle this point a few years ago, when the currency was stable. I think we had a serious problem that we cannot attract somebody to convince him to come to invest in the real estate in Egypt. However, he will have a very high appreciation of the price of the assets. Why? Because he will ask you another question. Okay, I will have an appreciation, maybe 30, 40% every year. But by the end, if I want to sell my property after 4 or 5 years, can you guarantee for me that when I return back to the US dollars or my foreign exchange, I will have profit? No. If we make, let's be honest, If we make the last 3-4 years the appreciation of the real estate assets, and you buy it with foreign exchange, with US dollars, and then you start to sell it this year or year after, then you will be surprised that you have a huge profit with the Egyptian pound, but you have loss in your investment in US dollars. So this is an issue. Nothing can do. What we can ask to do, I think, is it's magical. To ask the government, for example, to subsidize to guarantee the investor when he wants to sell his property to have the
he has the
rate.
answer. Pray.
It's impossible. But I don't want to be pessimistic. I think this is something that maybe in 1 year we will solve this problem. We will have one price, or even to narrow the difference between the two prices, and then after that we will not have this problem. But actually, we have this problem.
Thank you very much. Just one quick comment. The condition you describe is extremely dire, but it is a temporary situation. That is not the norm. That is not the norm. Cannot be the norm. Any other questions? We have one in the back here. I think this is the last one.
Thank you. Mohamed from EBRD. Maybe a question to Mr. Ibrahim. We talk a lot about restrictions and regulations in terms of the Central Bank of Egypt or access to finance. Being from an international financial institution such as the EBRD, I was wondering and asking maybe how could we try to bridge that gap, since we are not bound by some of these restrictions internally, to help and possibly support this access to finance on both company level or corporate level, and as well as policy dialogue with the government. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I'm sorry I can't see you from the cameraman. We're meeting EBRD on the 26th, so don't worry. We're working directly with EBRD on financing, and they've been very cooperative. I think the key thing, EBRD is doing what unfortunately local institutions are not doing, is as a hospitality developer, we have influx of foreign currency, so they trust that and they can see our financials, and accordingly they're willing to extend the required finances for it, because we can basically pay back. So we have a very good working relationship with EBRD. Just briefly on an earlier comment, just to clarify, under the rules of the Tourism Development Authority, real estate developers on the Red Sea are not allowed to do hospitals and schools. The reason the Guna hospital is there was it was built pre-revolution, and at the time they were able to get it through, and it was not registered. And even the schools, by the way, they're not registered. So it is done in it's not a legal setup. Usually people don't talk about it that way. Students in the schools in the Red Sea, and even in Somabay, we have a small nursery, actually they have to register in a local Egyptian school in Hurghada so that they are in the education system. So the perception that we can go and do a hospital is not allowed. We can't even do a mosque or a church. And even the ones in Guna are not allowed. It's an important point. We are not as developed. We're only allowed to do hotels and real estate. The rest has to be done, unfortunately, under the table.
I think what you said now again emphasizes the point
of regulation.
You have to have a
comprehensive
ecosystem. Thank you all very much. I think the main takeaway here is that we're going to be just fine in the next few years. Just keep the faith, keep smiling, and keep attending BEBA events. Thank you all very much. And thank you for the school.